Say what again?
So what makes a relationship?
I forgot what I said. All right. For me, for me, I need my wife to be whatever I need her to be at that particular time that I'm in need of. Right? Now, is that fair? Probably not. Right? Do you always get it right? No. Do you always know what I need? No. Do you try? Yes. All right. But that's part of a relationship. A relationship is learning, right? Learning each other. We got to relate to each other. We got to learn how to do that. That's why people early in their stages of dating and all of that, ask them questions. What's your favorite color? What's this? What's that? You do it so much that you don't realize what you're trying to do is learn the other person. You're trying to get to know the other person to the point of you know what they need before they need it. You know what they want before they want it. That's why you see older people that have been married for 40, 50, and 60 years. When they have conversations, they finish each other's sentences. They could tell you, I know what their likes are. I know their dislikes. I know when they're sad. I know when they're happy. I know all of this because over them years we have learned each other, and that comes with arguments. That comes with disagreements. That comes with conversations. That comes with love. That comes with separating each other. You know, you go in this room, I go in that room, and we ain't gonna say nothing to each other for a while. All of that comes into play with getting to know people, with understanding them. And so when you say, I need my husband or my wife to be whatever I need in that moment, after you start growing and getting to know each other, when I'm sad, I need my wife to be that person. I need my husband to be that person to pick me up, or just to be that shoulder to lean on. And early in a relationship, you might think when your significant other one is sad, you need to do stuff to cheer them up. And then you realize every time I tried to cheer this person up, this Negro up, it didn't work. All it did was get an argument. So now I realize he doesn't want me to cheer him up, or she doesn't want me to cheer him up. She just wants me to sit there and listen. And just be that shoulder and say, baby, it's going to be all right. That's all they need. All right? When they're going through struggles and all of that, or trying to figure out how to fix them, every time I tried to fix it, it made it worse. So I know I don't need to fix it. I just need to throw out ideas to allow them to fix it. That's all a part of learning somebody in a relationship. All right? That's all a part of it. And just to me, can't speak for nobody else. That's what makes my relationship strong, because it's you being whatever I need in that situation, and me trying to be whatever you need in that situation. And sometimes it gets to a point in that situation, in that relationship, you need me not to be around. You need me to be mute. So guess what? I know that, so guess what I need to do? Hush my mouth and not say nothing. Right? So when you look at relationships, all of them are different. There is no two relationships are the same, because it's different dynamics. And the reason why no two relationships are the same, no matter how much they walk in line with each other, is because there's no two people are the same. There's no two people are the same. So every relationship is different. So once again, when it goes back to giving relationship advice, when it comes to giving marriage advice, we have to be careful at the advice we give. Are we giving advice, or are we giving a testimony? What I mean, are we telling people of our trials and tribulations, of our experiences, we telling people, putting our feelings and our emotions aside and giving them the advice that they need, right? And it's hard for someone that's not trained in giving marriage counseling advice to put their self and their emotions and their feelings out of it, like that psychiatrist, like that marriage counselor is supposed to do, because it's their job, is what they're trained to do. Is separate feelings from the advice I got to give, right? Yes, sometimes feeling come in, but you look at that judge. That judge has to give a sentence based on law, and he has some guidelines, or she has some guidelines about the law that they have to follow. And once they start doing emotional stuff, they can get disbarred because they're not doing it according to law. All right. Mm-hmm. Even with doctors have certain guidelines and they have to follow. Right. And when they start doing other stuff and just doing stuff emotionally, it will affect their job and not only their patients. Right. So they go through all this training to keep their emotions intact, so they can do the job at hand. Military, we go through all this training and all of that to keep our emotions intact, so we can do the job at hand. All right. So we got to realize some of us are not equipped to give the advice that we're giving. Just because you've been married for 50 years don't make you a marriage counselor. It makes you good at your marriage. But how do we know in them 50 years of your marriage, y'all have spoke only 15 years of that time? And the only reason why y'all together is because you in one room and he in the other one, and y'all never say nothing to each other. All right? But you're giving marriage counseling advice, right? So no, we got to be careful and realize, and just because I'm a pastor doesn't qualify me to give psychological advice to people that are depressed. So we got to realize the roles that we play, and we got to also take ourselves out of it and make sure the stuff we're giving, the stuff we're saying is helping someone else, not from an emotional standpoint in the advice we're giving. Because if we're doing it from an emotional standpoint, or even if we're doing it from a place where we think we're qualified to do it from, we can be causing more hurt than harm. And that is, and it never plays more true than in relationships. It never plays more true in relationships, because you could be giving advice, I could be giving somebody advice based on me and your interactions, right? On what me and you do, or what I do according to you, right? To that I think helps put a smile on your face, right? And we may not be communicating, and I'm thinking it's putting a smile on your face, and the first thing every time I do it, you say, I can't stand when he do that, right? But because we're not at a point of open communication in our relationship, or you are not at a point where you can tell me that I don't like that because you don't want it to hurt my feelings, I done went and told somebody else that, and now they done broke up. Because it was a testimony of mine and not advice of mine. It was something that I thought my wife liked, so since my wife liked it, your wife should like it. How many times have you've heard or went to a restaurant and somebody said, oh, you'll like that. You eat fish, you'll like that. You eat seafood, you should like that. You eat steak, you like steak, you should like that. And you got it, and it was like, I can't stand that. Because they're basing what you're like on what they like. They're basing it on just their feeling, right? And not giving you, you know, the advice, and that may be not the right thing to do. It's actually a good point, because when we ask about restaurants, when we ask about stuff like that, we're asking their opinion on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What should you know? So that may be the flip side of that. We need to make sure the advice we're seeking is from qualified people, right? Because there's a difference in opinion and advice too. My opinion, I think you should do this, right? Because that's what I would do. Advice is totally different, because I'm advising you on how to do this, right? When you look at colleges and all of that, you have a student advisor, right? And what does that advisor do? They advise you on the course or action you should take, right? It's not called a student opinion person, right? Because they're not giving an opinion. They've been doing. They've been hired to do that job, and that's all they do, right? And watch this. When it comes to the financial aid stuff, they don't give you the advice. What do?
The same time.
They refer you to the financial aid person, right? Backing up again, we as teachers, pastors, and all of that, just because we got the title doesn't qualify us in every aspect of life.
The speed limit
Right.
is 55 miles per
Sometimes
hour.
when people come to us with mental issues or something like that, we need to step back and refer that to the person that the Lord has trained to do that. Now, are some pastors psychiatrists? Yeah. So they are qualified to do that because they went to school for it. Are some pastors certified marriage counselors? Yes. They've been qualified to do both. For the most part, a lot are not. So, I don't even know what I was talking about. Everybody's different. Every relationship is different. So, it's one of them things that, back to the original, I think that's what we're talking about, when I want you to be in our relationship. As a man, I need my wife to be whatever I need her to be at that particular time, right? And like I said, it may be fair, it may not be, it may be unfair, but at the same time, it's one of them things that over time we learn from each other. We learn each other, and we grow with each other, right? And you go back and look at relationships of brother and sisters, or sister and sister, brother and brother. They've been together for so long, right, with each other, that they know each other, right? It's because they grew up together. Day in and day out, they were in the same household. Day in and day out, they had conversations. So they know each other. It's the same thing with husband and wife. You got to, there's some work you got to do. There's some work you got to do in order to know that person moves, to know that person's inner self, and know too that you also got to realize that no matter how much you know that person, you still don't know that person, because you're still learning that person on a day-to-day basis. You can hear some older folks talk sometimes. If you go and look at some old, interviews of these people that have been married for 40, 50, 60 years, and I'm talking about the ones that are still in love with each other, not married and just can't stand each other. I'm talking about that's married and still in love with each other. Some of the ones that you will hear will say, they still surprise me on a daily basis. They still do this on a daily basis, or do this all the time. Because a relationship is always evolving. A relationship, you're always learning. You're always doing something. There's always a movement in that relationship. No matter how, you know what, it's gonna be some type of movement. Even if we look at a ship or a boat that's in the water, even though it's anchored, right, there's still some type of movement in it. It's still rocking back and forth if it's in the water, right? Our relationship is always in the water, so it's should always be constantly moving. Should always be constantly either rocking back and forth or doing some type of movement. It should never be to a point to where it's stale, where you want to stop learning about each other. I think this is